Okay, so today we're diving into a legal story that's really been making waves, huge news. We're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, his conviction, and just recently being denied bail. Our mission really is to unpack what happened with the verdict, why exactly bail was denied, and sort of what it all means going forward. We've pulled from quite a few credible sources here.
Yeah, and that these really high-profile cases, there's always so much complexity. It's important to look past just the headlines, right? To really get the nuances of the court decisions and all the public info floating around, especially with someone this famous.
Absolutely. So let's just jump straight into the core news. July 2nd, 2025. That's when U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian formally denied bail to Sean Combs. And here's what's really striking. The Daily Beast reported this. The judge specifically cited Combs, and I'm quoting here, disregard for the rule of law and a propensity for violence. Pretty strong words.
Wow, yeah. That phrasing, it's very direct. It definitely signals, a serious concern from the judge. Not just procedural. It suggests a real worry about his character and, frankly, potential risk. Now, looking at the verdict itself, it's interesting because, well, it was a split decision. You might find this surprising.
A split? How so?
Well, he was found guilty on 2 federal counts, specifically transporting individuals for prostitution under the Mann Act. That's an old law, right? Aimed at stopping interstate transport for immoral purposes. And this is key. He was acquitted of the really heavy charges, things like sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy, the organized crime stuff.
Right, racketeering implies that pattern.
Exactly. So the jury drew a line there. People.com and the Washington Post both covered how the jury made that distinction. It's pretty fascinating how they weighed the evidence.
It really is. But that brings us back to the judge's bail decision then, because even with that split verdict and the defense apparently offering a pretty hefty bail package, what was it, $1 million?
Yeah, a substantial offer.
Right, $1 million. But the judge still said no, and he doubled down on those reasons, the violence concerns, the potential danger to the community. And we should remember he's actually been locked up since his arrest back in September 2024, so he's staying in custody.
Which, puts the trial itself into perspective, too. It was intense, 7 weeks long. The prosecution brought in 34 witnesses, people like his former partner, Cassandra Cassie Ventura, and another woman just called Jane in the reports. They testified about coercion, about abuse. Really difficult testimony, I imagine.
Definitely.
And then the defense, well, their angle was arguing that all the encounters were consensual. They spent a lot of time trying to challenge the accuser's credibility. So you have these, completely opposing stories. How does a jury sort through that?
It seems, based on the outcome, they found the specific testimony around the Mann Act charges convincing, even if they didn't buy the larger conspiracy argument.
Okay, so verdicts and bails denied. What's the immediate next step?
Sentencing, right.
Exactly. That's the big one looming.
Right, and that's scheduled for October 3rd, 2025. And the potential sentence is pretty significant, up to 20 years maximum.
Yeah, 20 years max is on the table.
Yeah.
But the actual recommendations are, well, they're far apart. Prosecutors are apparently asking for 51 to 63 months, so roughly 4 to 5 years. But the defense, they're pushing for much less, 21 to 27 months. So under 2.5 years.
Wow, big difference.
Huge difference. And there's actually a pre-sentencing hearing coming up very soon, July 8th. That's when both sides will really argue their case for the sentence length. The Daily Beast mentioned that. And, if you connect the dots, the judge's reasoning for denying bail, the disregard for the rule of law, the propensity for violence, it really suggests the court is taking this conviction very seriously as they head into that final sentencing phase. It definitely sets a tone.
Yeah, it really does. Okay, so just to quickly recap for you listening, we've got this high-profile conviction, the judge taking a really firm stance on keeping Combs detained, and now this crucial sentencing phase coming up very soon.
Absolutely. And you have this whole deep dive into the Combs case, the conviction, the bail denial. It really throws a spotlight on how complex these things are. You've got the specific legal charges, the incredibly personal courtroom testimonies, and then the judge's discretion layered on top. So as you think about all these details, maybe consider what part of this case stands out most to you, what surprised you, and maybe what does it make you think about how our legal system handles these really high visibility, high stakes situations? Something to mull over.